My guest this week is Ahmet Al-Khattani, a Middle Eastern recruiter who's going to talk with everyone about working in Saudi Arabia. Hi, welcome to Job Search Radio. Great to have you on.
Great to be with you too. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Saudi Arabia? An American working in Saudi Arabia? How does this work? Why would someone want to do something like that?
Well, first of all, it's a tax-free haven. That's one.
Ding,
Second of
ding,
all,
ding, 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 ding.
yeah. That's a seller. And second of all, it's a booming economy, and it's not about oil. We have a diverse economy in Saudi. We have like tens and tens of companies that coming over from overseas and monthly on a monthly basis. So we have diverse economical system. We have diverse attributes that adds a value to our economy by the minute.
What sort of positions are available for Americans when they work in Saudi Arabia?
Well, the Saudis are about 20 million people. All right. The expats, the foreigners who are working in Saudi, are about 10 million. So that's a huge number compared to the citizens of Saudi. So we attract mostly those with an academic field with PhDs to work in universities on research centers. And secondly, engineering, like chemical engineering, like petroleum engineering field. And some of them are only attracted because or only approached because they're native speakers of English to teach English, regardless of their qualifications, in some schools here in Saudi. And recently, I've seen a rise of a new, how can I put that in the right words? A new stream of getting expats to work in HRD, human resources development, to do the organizational development, to attract the talents, to apply what they learned overseas in Saudi to develop the businesses and all, consultants and public relations, all those kind of stuff. So it's diverse, as I've said.
Fascinating. And I get the idea that it's not just simply Americans who work there. There are people from many other nationalities that wind up being in Saudi.
Yeah. The company that I work for example, has like 47 different nationalities. And usually we attract talent regardless of the nationality. So talents is what matter most.
Great. Now, you mentioned a couple of the professions that you're aware of that are very desirable in Saudi Arabia. I get the idea that security also might be an attractive field for employers. Am I wrong?
No, absolutely right. Of course, we have several companies here that are working in F-16 and aerospace technology that attracts veterans from the US and from the UK to train and to develop as engineers the companies that works in the military or have contracts with the military. So yeah.
So a lot of different professions are attractive there.
Yeah.
Now, Americans might have a little bit of fear about working in the Middle East, getting the idea that it's a dangerous place for Americans. Could you speak to that, please?
Yeah, some might say so. And actually, when I see Fox News, I get terrified too. Yeah, but to be honest, Saudi is like the biggest country in the Middle East. And although the region surrounding us is like troubled at the moment, but Saudi is perfectly safe. I mean, the distance from here and Syria, for example, is more than 2,000 kilometers away. And that's far, far away. It's a different country. And the problems surrounding us are caused by militia, not armies. So no dangers whatsoever. It's perfectly safe to live and work, and that is what keeping 10 million overseas expats here in Saudi, living and working. Some of them are not planning to return. Some of them are here for like 20 and 30 years.
Fabulous. Where does an expat wind up living in Saudi?
Say that again, please.
Of course. Where does an expat live in Saudi?
Well, he can choose wherever he want to live. He can live in a home. He can live in a compound if he's like want to be surrounded by foreigners and multicultural environment. But I would really, really recommend traveling and working overseas because life is short after all. Traveling is a new experience. So I would recommend for any expat here in Saudi who is planning to come to Saudi to indulge and to be with the Saudis culture. Try it. And instead of like living in a compound surround yourself with Americans. So you won't get any like cultural added value to you.
Interesting. What does housing in Saudi Arabia cost? I'm sure there's a wide range of prices, of course.
Of
But
course, of course. Usually for an expat, when he comes in Saudi, the company will be literally his sponsor. So the company will take care of everything, transportation, even food and housing also. And they will get to choose.
I got to slow down there for a second. They're paying for housing. They're
Yeah,
paying for transportation. They're paying for food. What is the
yeah.
expat paying for while they're there?
Well, basically nothing. So
Oh,
a lot of expats save up their money and send it home. And that's like the number one reason for expats to come in Saudi because no taxes, they can live with basically no expenses whatsoever and send their money back home. That's why we have a lot of Indians and Pakistanis and Americans and Europeans in Saudi.
fascinating. So I wanted to get into the conversation of how someone starts looking for work in Saudi Arabia. But first, I want to give everyone my job search insider tip for this show, which, folks, it's going to be a US centric tip. And it's about a mistake I see job hunters make on their resume way too often. This mistake is so easy to correct. And it just basically, well, let me just get into it. The mistake I see people do all the time is they provide no zip code, no postal code that allows someone to really know where you are. You put a name and your mobile number on the resume, and that's it. Now, I don't know how it is for other folks, but I know when I'm searching for individuals, I'm trying to find people with particular skills within proximity to a specific location. Without that zip code or postal code, I have no way of finding you. So just very simply, put your zip code or postal code on the resume. It will make all the difference in the world in terms of opportunities coming to you. So that's my tip for this show. Let's come back to Ahmet and continue where we left off. So someone says, hey, I think I'm going to try this Saudi Arabia thing. How do they go about finding work?
First of all, he should write his zip code and his CV so
There
we know
you go.
exactly how to reach him. Yeah, that's a universal tip, by the way. They do it here, even in Saudi. Just the phone number and that's it, and an email. To find a job in Saudi, you should target the agencies that Saudi Arabian companies are dealing with. And by agencies, it depends according to your level. Some agencies are specialized in bulk recruitment. That's for unskilled individuals. But for skilled and experienced, they should target the headhunting agencies. And the headhunting agencies should look for jobs for them in the Saudi market. Start contacting companies and looking for jobs for them. I would recommend, if you don't mind, a website. Do you?
Yeah, please.
There is a website called Gulf Talent where you will find a lot of individuals there posting up their CVs. So if you're looking for a job, especially in the IT field or engineering, Post your resume there and keep updating it every day. So whenever a recruiter searches for a CV with a keyword that it is in your CV already, you'll pop up at the first. You'll always be in the first because you're updating it every day. So Gulf Talent, headhunting agencies, or bulk recruitment agencies.
Now, I want to slow down for a second. Gulf Talent, is that a .com
A
or
dot
some
com.
other domain?
That's a .com.
Great. So gulftalent.com is one way to post your resume and be available to recruiters and corporations that are looking for people.
Yeah, and not only that, everybody's familiar with Einstein's definition of insanity, of course, doing the same thing and expecting results. If Gulf Talent didn't work for you, try LinkedIn. If LinkedIn didn't work for you, then go for, after trying for a while, of course, with different techniques, go to agencies. If bulk recruitment agencies didn't work, then go for headhunting agencies. So there are a lot of options for a guy who wants to work in Saudi.
And
If that didn't work, go to the websites of the companies that you are targeting. Write your resume according to their needs. Focus on their needs. Because some candidates, they just will spam their CVs everywhere for every single job. That's an immediate disqualification. He will be considered disqualified immediately because there is a tracking system when it comes to recruitment in most companies. So they can track your history. They will see that, well, he applied for a public relation job, and at the same time, he applied for a human resources job, and at the same time, he applied for a mechanical engineering job. He's just spamming his CV and wasting time. So he should write his CV and only in a way that is suitable for this vacancy in particular. That's one. Two, he should only apply to jobs that he is qualified for.
I wish U.S. Employees did the same thing here when they were applying for jobs, because the fact of the matter is, so many resumes are little more than spam.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had a recent guest on who's a corporate recruiter for a medical system, and he was talking about his applicant tracking system allows him to see every application received, every version of the resume submitted, and thus he's able to detect the baloney that someone is trying to inflict on employers. And you apply for 4 different types of jobs. Suffice it to say,
Yeah.
you're not qualified for 4 different types of positions.
Yeah. Actually, recruiters will know. A guy approached me a while ago, and he told me, I work in training, but I couldn't find a job because of his communication skills, of course. I tried telling him that improve your communication skills, watch some YouTube videos, do this and that. He said, well, I just rewrote my CV to be eligible for an IT manager. That will make him like eligible for his CV to be screened. But at the moment that the recruiter will give him a call, he will know that it's full of baloney.
Right.
Immediately.
Right. And that's the sad thing about it. People think that if they can just get in the door, they can finesse their way into being hired. And I don't know how it is for you, but with me, it doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work anywhere.
Right. Right. Now, you mentioned LinkedIn. And I'm going to probe the way you use LinkedIn for a second. Now, if someone is in the US or they're in India, for example, and you're looking for a profile of someone who's interested in working in Saudi Arabia but isn't there yet, how do you go looking for those people on LinkedIn that allows you to detect them, given that LinkedIn is kind of broken up by servers in particular countries?
Yeah. Every company in Saudi Arabia or a firm has a certain number of visas, and those visas are given to the companies, work visas, just like the green card in the US. Those visas are given to the companies according to their Saudization level. It's given to them according to how many Saudis they have in their own company. So the more you hire Saudis, the more visas that you will get. Plain and simple. The visas should be diverse. So for a vacancy, they might have visas only for India. And for another vacancy, they have visas for the US. So for example, if I have a visa only for Indians, I won't write only for Indians because that's racist. I will go and look them up on LinkedIn, search for keywords. Sometimes I use Google. When I used to work in a headhunting agency, I used Google. Google will take me even to Facebook profiles, to blogs, to phone numbers, to social networks. LinkedIn, for example. Google will even take me to LinkedIn profiles.
Yes.
Once I was looking for a graphic designers on a part-time basis for another company, and I found him on Google from his private blog. So when it comes to if a guy is looking for a job, he should fill his LinkedIn page with a lot of keywords that indicates his skills, and he will be found.
The skills I understand. The openness to Saudi is really where I'm exploring it. Should they put interested in finding work in Saudi Arabia or some other way of communicating that interest?
Well, when I worked in an outsourcing agency back in the day, and I used to look for IT guys, especially from India and Pakistan and Jordan. That didn't matter if he said like I'm interested in working in Saudi or not, because if I want him, I will contact him, whether if he was interested or not. Because if you invite someone to come and live and work in Saudi, you are expected to give like an offer that he can't refuse, triple, quadruple his current package, at least, with no taxes, with school fees for his children, and so on and so on. So mostly they will agree. That's the mentality that we work here in Saudi, because everybody wants to work in Saudi. From my own point of view, especially for taxes, from what I heard from our British friends, that they get taxed to death in the UK. That's one of the reasons. And it's one of the main reasons too is that our economy is very, very stable because our industries are diverse. We have FMCG companies that are the biggest in the world. We have Aramco, which is one of the biggest oil refinery companies in the world, and so on.
Interesting. And you've said that salaries that are offered are much higher than what someone is earning in their local market. Did I hear correctly? 3 and 4 times? So
Yeah,
if
at
someone's
least.
making $100,000 a year, they can think in terms of 300 or 400,000 per year.
Yeah, especially in sales, medical equipment sales. Yeah. But on the human resources field, because we have a lot of Saudis, so when we attract guys in, for example, recruitment or human resources in general, that's not the case. But in certain industries, yes, especially in sales.
Interesting. So for an HR person, a generalist, for example, who's considering making a move to Saudi, how much higher do you think they can earn? And obviously, there's a lot of variables, but I'm just trying to give people a feel for
Yeah.
what it could be like.
If he's a generalist, you mean like 5 years of experience?
Let's say 5 years of experience. They've got some recruitment background. They have a background in benefits and compensation.
In that case, he will. Saudi companies won't attract people or candidates from the UK or Europe. They will attract them from other countries. For example, India, because 5 years of experience is basically nothing. What Saudis are looking for is like experience and lots of experience. That's how they can give him quadruple the money and expect quadruple the expenses and returns. So experience, yeah.
Lots of experience translates into 10 or 15 years.
Yes, and respectable companies in the same industry that he's targeted to come and work here in Saudi. For example, Aramco might get a guy from PB, the British oil company. Same industry, similar field, he will be targeted. From like one of the biggest telecommunication companies here in Saudi is STC, will target guys from like Virgin Mobile or Vodafone. So similar industries, yeah.
Interesting. So invariably, it's sounding like it's not just simply skill knowledge that's important, but industry knowledge as well as those skills.
Indeed.
They're important to employers.
Indeed, because when it comes to qualifications, we have Saudis studying everywhere. A Saudi guy or a Saudi kid who just graduated from high school will be given an option whether to take his bachelor degree in Saudi Arabia for free, and he will be given a salary, a monthly salary, for only studying. The government will pay him, or to take his studies abroad. That's why we have around 40,000 Saudis in the US studying right now. It's not because we don't have universities, it's because we want them to get the culture too and to live on their own. So when it comes to qualifications, we have plenty. You're speaking to me, for example. My mother is a medical professor. My sister used to teach in Thomas Jefferson University back in Philly. So when it comes to qualifications, we have many in Saudi. Abundance, if I may say. But it's experience in certain areas that we lack sometimes. And those are the areas that we hunt from.
Interesting. And that's the ignorance that most Americans would have. Most Americans wouldn't know how international the Saudi population is and how much you have immersed yourself in U.S. and other cultures to get that kind of experience to then bring home.
Yeah. Well, we bring the experience, but not the culture with us, because when we get exposed to other cultures, it teaches us to be tolerant. Tolerance is like a virtue, and it should be taught to children. And in order to get the attitude to kids or implant that attitude to young kids, we send them abroad. So we have like 30 to 40,000 kids studying in the US, and we have around the world around 150,000 Saudis taking their bachelor degree or doctorate or PhDs, masters.
Interesting. So what I've heard you talk about so far is finding this one job board that they can apply through. And we spoke about LinkedIn and how you use it to find people. And then we started to talk a little bit about agencies, but I want to spend our remaining time with one another focused on that. How do people really find the agencies to apply for? Is it part of targeting the employer to see what agencies they use? What's the logic, and how do people find those agencies to contact?
Everybody should do some research before doing anything in his life, even for buying a car. So when you target a company or a country, Google is the key. When you see agencies advertising that they recruit for Saudis, you go to their website and you see that they have like this company and that company in Saudi Arabia, and they provide services for them. That's an agency that you can target, that you can give them a call. If they didn't respond, give the companies a call. If you are working in a pharmaceutical company as a sales director, then target the major pharmaceutical companies in Saudi and give their HR a call. Take their email, send your resume. You know, companies go for or have 3 stages in general in each department: a trouble, or a growth, or a state where they just want to keep it the way it is. So if they are in a trouble, they will look for talent to fix that trouble. If they are in a growth stage, they will need talent to keep the growth going up. If they are in a steady place, they will need a talent to keep them steady. So everybody's looking for talent. Just target your research.
And what I heard you say is if the agency submits your resume to a firm and you don't hear anything back, contact the employer directly. Did I get that
Yeah.
right?
Yes, ask for feedback. When you send your resume to a company, from my own perspective and my own point of view, you are entitled to feedback. Whether if it's rejection or acceptance or this vacancy have been filled, you're good. Feedback is it's our social responsibility to increase the awareness of those who apply to companies.
Interesting. Because in the US, you would not go directly to that employer. You would get to the agency who submitted you to try and get that feedback rather than intrude on the employer. And it sounds like culturally it's different in Saudi Arabia, where it's acceptable to contact the firm directly.
Well, if the agency didn't give you feedback, that's a different story.
Got it.
Not, yeah.
Got it. We're coming up on the end of our time with one another, and I want to make sure I cover any major points that I've missed in my interviewing here. Is there anything that we haven't covered yet that would be important to my listeners that would help them find work in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, one sentence. It's the most important of all. Stop doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. That's about it, and everything in life.
And by that you mean stop going to the same well and drinking the same water and expecting a different result. Try something different, and you may get something
Yes.
that's
Innovation, and yeah, innovation is the key.
beautiful. Hey, Ahmed, thank you so much for making time today. How can people find out more about you and the kind of work that you do? What would be the best way for them to contact you?
Well, they can look me up on LinkedIn. The name is Ahmed Thani, and I welcome any guy who wants to.
Do you recall your LinkedIn address?
Say that again, please, because the internet connection is not that stable now.
Understood. Do you recall your URL for your LinkedIn profile?
Well, actually, no, but they can look me up, Ahmed Al-Qatani. I'm gonna say you can publish that in your LinkedIn page, and I think that people can get to me by you.
That's fine. I'll include it in the show notes, folks, so that this way you have a way of reaching out to them. Ahmed, thank you. And folks, we'll be back next time with more advice for you to help you find work more quickly. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you found it helpful, I've got a lot more information on my website, which is thebiggamehunter.us. There's content there that you can watch, listen to, or read to help you find work more quickly. And if we are connected on LinkedIn, send a connection request to me at linkedin.com/in/thebiggamehunter. I accept connection requests from people worldwide. Finally, sometimes people get stalled in their job search. Sometimes people have questions. They're not quite sure what to do, but they'd like advice. But they make the mistake of reaching out to the wrong people for that advice. Friends, family, well-meaning people who just don't have the knowledge and experience of someone like me with more than 40 years of search experience. At my website, there's a tab on the top that says, "Have your job search questions answered." Reach out to me through that tab or through prestoexperts.com. I'd be happy to answer your questions. I'm Jeff Altman. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Hope you have a great day. Take care.